Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar that we are happy to handle with the team from Google and Didomi. So just before we start, I would like to, for the ones that are new in the platform, there is a question tab and a chat tab. So don't be sure that you post your questions on the question tab and your comments in the chat tab. So like this, at the end of the webinar, we can come back to those. So after this, let's get started. So I'm Antonio, the beauty product of Didomi, and today I'm here with Edgardo, Namrata, and Kate. So I'll let you introduce yourselves, guys.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Edgardo. I'm a software engineer at Didomi. I'm part of the internal CMP team. We're dedicated to support and develop new features for our web SDK solution.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Shoda. I am a global product lead on consent mode at Google.
Hi, everyone. I'm Namrata. I'm also a global product lead at Google working on all things privacy-centric measurement.
Yes, so thank you all for joining, and we are really happy to host this webinar with you. I think this is a result of our teams working together to target a new vision on how to respect privacy and user choices, and obviously ultimately creating trust. Just for this index, quite quick, we will talk about the Google partnership. Then I'm missing the slides. Okay. We'll talk about the Google partnership, then go through a few best practices to maximize consent rate, then the Google consent mode introduction by Kate and Namrata, and then we will do a live demo on the solution with Edgardo. So let's get into it. I will start with the partnership, actually what has been done. As you know, a few months ago, we released this first version of the integration with Google, where now you are able to activate and manage Google tag behaviors on the Didomi console. At the same time, we added a new official vendor for Google Analytics solutions that we didn't have in the past. So today, all pretty friendly and quite easy to use. And so, with this, let's go to the best practices. I will try to be short. I will introduce you to mainly three concepts: the title, the integration format, and the look and feel of the buttons, which makes a combination of the three factors that allows you to increase this consent rate and ultimately create trust with the user. In the first advice, we observed, obviously, this is the result of a research that we did in 40 million consents. That was the scope we took for this analysis. And the first thing that we see is that when we are collecting choices or we are collecting consent, the message should be really clear. When we arrive to a page and we see a block of text, your consent rate is going to be like really, really low. Why? Because we don't know what is it. We don't know what's the question. If there is a question, it could be your privacy is our priority. We respect your privacy. Do you accept cookies? But we have to announce to the user, what is this about? And this is like one of the main, let's say the main advice that I have. There is a few others. Obviously, we saw a difference in consent rate according to the color of the buttons. If there is a debate if this is a header pattern or not, I will say no. There are two different actions with two different colors. So we identify clearly where I refuse and where I agree. And in the case that we identify both clearly, then the consent rate it's better. We are not saying that you have to make a flashy things that says, oh, click here, and accept. Just make it clear. There is two actions with two different colors. Here you have a few examples. The third advice is the format of integration. There is two main formats today that we handle, which is what we call the pop-in or the full screen that blocks you into the content, and the banner. The banner always has a lower consent rate. The explanation we give it's that A banner is kind of a pollution. Why? Because we are there, we see half of the website, we can consume the content, but we have this annoying banner on the bottom that it's asking me something and I just want to close it. In the first case, I arrive to the website and there is a question that is asked to me clearly, and I have to make a real choice. And in this case, the consent rate is much more higher than what we observe in the banners. So there is also one thing, especially for our clients and users in France, which is the continue without agreeing versus the agree and close button. And as you know, you have these two formats. In our experience, when all this is fully optimized, it means that we have a full screen format with a text that is introducing us to the question, with the two buttons clearly identified. The consent rate is higher in the agree and close format. One more advice that I want to tell you, and it's something that we are observing more and more, and we are asking ourselves why, but it's the dark patterns like this one that we see on the screen. And especially in France, we are seeing more and more people or companies using this continue without agreeing outside of the consent notice box with a transparency. What we are observing is that the consent rate it's lower than in any other format. I don't know how they arrived to this conclusion to use it like this, but in our opinion, we don't have to fool the user. The user will see that we are trying to fool him, and in that case, most of them they will click in continue without agreeing because they are trying to make me accept without with this dark pattern. So this will be my advices. If you have questions, I will be happy to answer at the end. I will give the hand now to Namrata, I think.
Thank you, Antonio. If we go to the next slide, I just want to kick us off by just talking about, why we're here, why consent mode matters, why we even built consent mode, and just a little bit of context on the ecosystem itself. So I'm sure it's no surprise to anybody that's dialed in here today that, this new world of measurement is just extremely different. And primarily all the changes are really rooted in this need for additional user privacy. And internally, we look at these changes manifest themselves in two ways. One is either through platform changes like Apple ITP or Firefox ETP. And then the second is regulations, which actually exist primarily in the EEA plus UK market. What these regulations and platform changes have resulted in is a degradation of cookies. So, we're already seeing cookies degrade from several changes. We're only going to see them degrade even more. And, overall, as a company, we're moving to more and more aggregated forms of measurement that are more privacy safe. The ecosystem is going to continue to change. So, we should expect change in the future, and change is really the only norm as we move forward in this new world. And then I think one critical thing to keep in mind is, in a way, cookies were perfect. They were perfect because they gave us all the information that we needed to accurately measure conversions. Obviously, they weren't probably as privacy safe, which is why we're moving to other forms. But from a pure measurement perspective, they gave us a lot of data. They were very high fidelity, high quality rich. We won't have something that will replace cookies perfectly in the future. And we are going to need to rely on multiple types or multiple forms of new privacy safe measurement solutions to give us back what cookies once used to provide us. So there won't be one size fits all solution that will replace cookies. And we're going to have to lean on multiple solutions along with modeling to give us an accurate representation of the entire of the data that cookies once provided us. Now, if we go to the next slide, I just want to provide a sneak preview into, as a company, what are we thinking in terms of overall, like all the different things that we are doing to move towards a privacy safe world. So the portfolio of solutions that we are building for the future is called privacy centric measurement or privacy safe measurement solutions. And like I mentioned, it's a portfolio. So these are all the products that are inside that portfolio of solutions that really help us, that will help us in the future move to a more privacy safe measurement. I'm just going to quickly talk through each one of these very briefly before we go deeper into consent mode. The first one, Google Site Tag or Google Tag Manager. This is really what provides like the foundational tagging platform on top of which all other privacy-centric measurement solutions are built. So it's extremely important to have Global Site Tag or Google Tag Manager throughout all your different web pages, like across your website, as it unlocks compatibility with everything else on this page. Enhanced Conversions, another product that uses hashed first-party data to recover conversions that are not observable by Google Tag, and primarily for cross-device and view-based data that we are losing due to some of these platform changes. Consent mode, which is the focus of today, I'm not going to go into because Kate's going to explain that. The two other products that are on the right side, they are farther along in terms of availability. One of them is server-side tagging through Tag Manager. For more sophisticated advertisers that just have a lot of tags on their webpage and just want higher site speed, higher security, more customization, they can basically move their tags from being client-side to server-side, and it offers just more durability, more higher speed, site security, and all of that. Obviously, it comes at an additional cost, and you'll need more resources. It's more complex to implement. So it comes with those trade-offs. And then finally, conversion measurement APIs. I'm sure many of you would have heard of like Privacy Sandbox. This is ultimately what's going to replace cookies in the long term. And this basically creates an exchange of aggregate and privacy safe data between the advertiser and the browser. We have several APIs under Privacy Sandbox. We're calling the conversion measurement APIs. Either they come in two forms. It's either aggregate APIs or event level APIs. But this is very, very early in terms of development, and it'll be like another couple of years until we completely land this solution. Last thing, conversion modeling. This isn't really a product. It's more of like a byproduct of all the products on this page. Conversion modeling really isn't a new concept. It's been there for a while, but I think our reliance on conversion modeling just increases drastically as our ceiling of observable data drops. So consent mode, enhanced conversions, all these products really need to really help Google provide better modeling. And Kate's going to talk about that in a little bit. So with that, I will hand it over to Kate to talk more about consent mode and the consent modeling consent mode gives us. Over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Namrata. Next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit about consent mode. It's a feature that allows you to measure conversions while respecting user consent. So two main pillars here. One is user privacy. By implementing consent mode, advertisers' tags behave in a consent-aware way, respecting user choices. And then the second pillar is around modeling. Google's able to use those consent signals and model for lost conversions due to consent changes. Next slide. To be eligible for consent mode, an advertiser needs to have Global Site Tag or Google Tag Manager in place, a presence in the EMEA region, so the EA plus UK, or regions with relevant regulations. And then a consent banner. So either a consent banner in place or the plans to put one in place before implementing consent mode. Next slide. Oh, go back one. So the advertiser benefit of consent mode. On average, it recovers more than 70% of ad click to conversion journeys that are lost due to consent, cookie consent choices. Next slide. Thank you. And then this is just a little bit of a deep dive on a visual on how consent mode works. So you can see in the first path, if a user provides consent, Google receives a ping with an ID such as a gclid. If they convert, the conversions are reported normally. If the user doesn't convert, then no conversions are reported. On the bottom path, if the user does not provide consent, then an unconsented ping is sent to Google. So there's no add click identifier like in the first path. If the user converts and the tags are unblocked, we are able to recover through conversion modeling consented and unconsented conversions. And if the tags are blocked, then we'll only recover the consented only conversions. And then similar to the top path, if the user does not convert, then no conversions are reported. Next slide. Before I pass it over to Edgardo for a deep dive on how Didomi works with consent mode, this is just a little look at the rest of 2021 and beyond for our roadmap. So a big focus for us in 2021 and beyond is simpler implementation and usability. We're going to do that through direct tag manager deployment and codeless implementation, improving our optimization score surfacing logic, and then an in-UI performance uplift stat. So you'll be able to see how exactly consent mode worked for you. And then also improved modeling. So we're always deploying new models any place that we can. Specifically, we're focused on models for Google Analytics and SA360, and then also bidding to value-based strategies. And Edgardo, I think you are up.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, so the intent for me is to show you how at Didomi we have managed to integrate with Google Consent Mode. So I have two goals in mind. First is to show how a client can enable Google Consent Mode in a direct fashion. And also perhaps like more developer oriented, I will show how we manage to debug and actually like test that the information that we're passing is the correct one. This is a pretty straightforward slide. I have two screenshots here on the right. Those are screenshots of our code, which is basically an implementation on Google's managed consent setting documentation. On the first one, we are making sure that the data layer object exists. On the second one, we're just making sure that we're pushing the information to the data layer. The data layer is a data structure that we're using to send events or variables to Google Consent Mode with the information that's relevant for us. We have two ways right now to integrate Google Consent Mode using Didomi. The first one, more developer-oriented, more used for testing. We use this Didomi config object in which we pass the parameter GCM with a flag enable set to true, and that will be it, given that we also have integrated the SDK. The second one, which is more user-friendly, in my opinion, uses the Didomi console. That we will be seeing live in our demo, which I will show you right now. Let me see my screen for that. Okay, so hopefully you can see it now. This is the Didomi console. I'm just gonna refresh. I will be using this URL, which is on one of our testing sandboxes. And this is going to emulate our client or user website. Our objective is to enable Google Consent Mode here. So we have this, which is very straightforward. Really, in order to enable Google Consent Mode, we only need to click here to enable it. If we want to disable it, it will be like this. Right now, it's disabled. So we should expect to see nothing in the data layer related to Google Consent Mode at the moment, which is the case. Now, if I wanted to enable that, then I will click here and then save and publish. This should take about 15 to 20 seconds. On the user interface, you were able to see that we have two checkboxes. Each one of those checkboxes refers to one default status per each consent type. We currently support for the console two consent types. The first one is ad storage, which is related to advertising, and the second one is analytics, which is related to Google Analytics and analysis in general. So now we have enabled Google Consent Mode on our website. We expect to see one granted and one denied value. Let me refresh the page. Now, if we set it to be sure, we're setting Didomi. On the data layer, we now should have events, which you can see here. The first one is setting Didomi's developer ID, and the other one, which is the one that interests me in order to know that we're sending the default values that the user has sent, is this one, where we're setting the default consent type values. The first one is granted, ad storage, and the second one is denied, which correspond to what the user said here. These other three ones are new consent types that are actually supported by our web SDK, but we're still working on the console in order to support them here. So you can omit them at the moment. Now, this is one of the ways that we use to debug. Now I know that the default status for Google Consent Mode are here. Another way that we check is using the network tab. If we reload the page, we should be able to see if the analytics are receiving the pings. 1 second, let me reset that one more time. Yeah, there we go. We look for the GSC, sorry, parameter. Let me find it. And we see G1, we find it here. G1 is going to be a fixed part of this parameter. And we have 1 for one of the consent types and 0 for the other, which means granted or denied. Now, if we wanted to see, we now know that the default status are being set. Now we want to check that the user choices are being reflected and sent to Google Consent Mode. So in order to test that, let's say that we disagree and close. That would be disagree to all and close. One more run here. Let me see what's going on with the data layer. We're sending an update event, which is telling Google Consent Mode, okay, those two consent types should be denied. And the same should be going on here in terms of the pings that are being sent to Google Analytics. Second, it's going to take a while. There we go. We look for the DCS. Again, the G1 is fixed, but then we have denied for both of the two consent types. So basically, this is a pretty straightforward way for our clients to integrate Google Consent Mode. We verify that we're sending the correct information for the consent types that interest us and that Didomi is supporting at the moment. And that would be our GCM direct integration in a nutshell. So I know that there's a remaining piece of the presentation. I think there's a Q&A, and I will hand it over to Antonio.